Hello and welcome to the Low Carb Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Leah Williamson. Holly can't join us this week, but we have an amazing guest. Our guest today is Rosanna Smith. She is the host of the Women in Keto Summit. In 2020, Rosanna began focusing on her fitness and health, as well as growing her knowledge in the wellness community. Within the past few years, she's become a certified keto coach who helps women and men achieve their healthier lifestyles. And her passions lie in health and self-development. And I just love that Rosanna and I had been speaking. We'll talk a little bit more about the Women in Keto Summit soon. And she told me that, she tried something new at an older age. And even though she was frightened to do it, she still gave it a go. And that was keto. So welcome to the podcast, Rosanna.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Great to have you on. So let's tell people a little bit about that journey, because it's hard starting something new when you're an older age, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually I started in 2019, so I was about 48 at the time. And my son is the one who said I would like to do keto. I've heard the word keto, but I didn't really know much about it. So I was like, okay. So I Googled it and found a couple of recipes and started cooking it for dinner for me and him, and we did it together. So it was kind of nice that we were able to do the journey together. But then after a couple of days, he said it wasn't for him. His performance, he felt like he was kind of weak, and he lifted a lot of weights. So I was like, okay. But I was sitting on the couch one day and my phone rang, and I leaped off the couch to get the phone. I was like, man, that was really odd, because I have lower back problems and I've had it for years. And I was like, man, my back doesn't hurt. It didn't even dawn on me that my back wasn't hurting. But that day I did notice my back stopped hurting. And I'm like, could it be the diet? And I'm like, it couldn't be the diet. So I kind of went back to my regular diet because my son didn't want to do it anymore. And then my back slowly started to hurt again. And I'm like, I guess it was the diet. So I started tracking my food. I downloaded MyFitnessPal on my phone, and I started tracking my food. And yeah, my back started feeling better, and I had more energy, had a bit more focus. But I was so like going, it can't be I kept going back and forth. Like I wasn't believing that your diet could change my body so drastically. So I went back to a regular diet, the SAD diet, and then I started feeling just bad. So I jumped back into keto, because I kind of yo-yoed back and forth. And the third time I did it, I started journaling. I started writing everything down, like what I ate, how I felt, how long I was sleeping, and everything. And that's when it really kind of clicked. Like, it is the diet. And but the third time I ended up with the keto flu. I did it wrong. I wasn't drinking enough electrolytes. I wasn't consuming enough vegetables. So I made a lot of mistakes doing it, but I kept persisting because I started feeling better mentally, physically. I just started to feel better. And because of that, I just kept on going, and I'm still learning a lot. I mean, you learn it as you go, and I've been doing it for 2.5 years now. I'm 52 now, and I feel better now at 52 than I did at age 40. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I actually feel like I look better too.
Yeah.
Because I lost 30 pounds, so my face kind of got slender, and I have more energy, and so I exercise more. I sleep better. Overall, I just feel so much better.
Yeah. And for the record, I did say older age, and I don't consider you an older age at all. But
no problem.
But it's true, isn't it? You feel so much more energetic. You have you don't feel like what that number should be at that age. And I think back to like my parents at that age, or my grandparents at that age, and you think, oh, they were so old. But these days we're taking back our lifestyles and having so much energy, and we're more like teenagers now.
Oh, I know. I do feel much better.
Yeah. And so well, you're the host of the Women in Keto Summit, which is a 5-day summit that's coming up from April 25th to 29th. So when this airs, it'll be right away starting, which is really great. So I'll be putting the links into the show notes, and people can log on to it and have a look. Might see someone like me speaking there. So Rosanna, tell me a little bit about the summit and some of the speakers that are going to be there as well.
Yeah, so it actually starts on Monday the 25th at 9 Eastern time, and 5 speakers will be you'll be able to watch 5 of the speakers, and it's Ben Azadi, Dr. Dominique D'Agostino, Tracy Gluchin, Michelle Barthwork, and Jean Fish. So you'll get to watch them for 24 hours, and then on Tuesday the 26th, you have 5 more speakers. And then you have another 5 more speakers for 5 days, and that'll run all the way till the 29th. So you'll get to experience for free. You'll get to listen to it, and then you could also buy the access pass.
Yeah,
that'll also give you extra bonuses on top of watching everything, but you get to experience everything for free.
I love these summits. They're so great. You learn so much information. Like you were saying, you're always constantly learning. I bet being the host, you've learned so much information interviewing everybody for the summit. What's like maybe just a little sneak peek, a key takeaway or something that you really enjoyed from one of the speakers that you think you might implement yourself?
Well, what's interesting is that when Anna Kabecka, she talks about
Anna,
yeah, so she talks about menopause, and I'm premenopause. So and she talked about pH balance. Your pH balance, you should find out what your pH balance is, and you should test in the morning. And I never actually thought about testing my pH balance to see where it was at. So I'm going to start testing my pH balance, and it's supposed to be above 0.7. And she was talking about that, because if your pH balance is off, then you'll have difficulty losing the weight when you're in menopause and premenopause. So that was very interesting for me, because I've never actually never even knew about testing that.
Yeah,
so that
definitely.
was pretty interesting. And then there's also people who talked about, like Jonathan Shane, he talked about body dysmorphia. And that's actually something very interesting too, because when I was younger, I was very, very skinny when I was younger. But and I was so skinny, I was shy. I didn't even like to talk to anyone, because I just didn't want anyone to talk to me. And when I was talking to him, I was very interesting, because I was like, man, I was kind of very shy and aloof with people, because I just felt like I just didn't look right, because I was just so skinny. So that was interesting to talk to him about that.
Yeah, I bet. Well, they sound like some great discussions, and there's so many people that are favorites of ours on the podcast as well, like Dr. Anna and Ben Azadi and Robert and Crystal Sykes. We've had them on before. They're great, aren't they?
They are. They are very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to listening in and hearing what all these great speakers have to say. And some of the areas of topics are foundational, like keto foundations. So that's really great for somebody that wants to, even if you're not new to starting keto, but it's always really good to go back and visit the foundations, just to make sure, like you said, you tried a lot of different things, and sometimes you can get a little bit off track and modify things as they go along, but it's always good to come back to those foundations and check in with them. Yeah. And then, and then making keto work is another topic. And then advanced keto for those that are wanting to really, like get right into it a little bit more. So that must be really great for those that are already been doing keto for a while. Yeah,
the advanced keto, Vanessa Spino, she talked about increasing your protein. In advanced keto. So that was very interesting too.
Yeah.
And testing your ketones. She prefers breath ketone versus blood, because breath is a bit more accurate. Well, blood, because that could vary just how your body is using the ketones there. So she was, I actually I have been increasing my protein after speaking to her, because sometimes I feel like I don't take in as much protein.
Yeah.
So
it's funny you should say that, because Holly and I had Vanessa on the podcast as well. And straight away after she spoke, we were like, all right, we're upping our protein and really looking into it. So yeah, she's fantastic. And then some of the other areas are balancing the body and real life keto. And I guess I'm falling into that real life keto track. I think that's the one that I'm falling into, because mine is topic is staying keto when life gets in the way. So I'm discussing just like all those kind of stresses that we have in life and how we can reduce some of the stress to help us really live that lifestyle the best way that we can. So I'm excited to be on it as well. Especially with these great speakers. I feel like, like I was like, wow, these are people like I look up to and respect, and I'm speaking with them. So I feel like so honored.
Yeah, you had a lot of really great information about sitting around the table and explaining the foods and like where they come from, and you get to really appreciate it. And some people don't actually do that. They just eat it and they don't even know where it came from and what it actually does for your body.
Yeah.
So to break it down for your children and spend time being mindful of what you're eating and where it came from, it's I actually enjoyed our conversation quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you. I did as well. And yeah, and it's I think, like, with you were talking about body dysmorphia and our relationships with food, they start from such an early age. So if we can help our children to understand the joy of food, the nutrients in food, then we can set them up with a better, healthier way going forward. Because I know from my personal experience, I had a very unhealthy relationship with food in my teen years, being overweight and yo-yo dieting and things like that. So if I can help my children and other children, develop that healthy relationship with food rather than seeing it as a something to be at war with, then my job is done.
Yeah. Children is like I said, I was really skinny, and I don't think I really had a really good relationship with food. I just thought food was just food, until now, when the older you get, the older that I got, I appreciate food, and I understand what food is. It's to nourish my body, and it comes from the earth. So now I'm more mindful and more respectful where my food comes from.
I love that. Yeah. That's so great. So that's the Women in Keto Summit, and it runs from the 25th to the 29th of April. So yeah, like we'll put the links into the show notes. Everybody can join in. It's going to be lots of fun, lots of great speakers. And if you can't make all the speakers live, then the best thing to do is to buy the package. I usually do that because I'm one of those people, like, I just want to sit there and absorb all the information. I love to take it in really slowly. So I'll listen and pause and take notes and really get into it. So I usually buy the package when they come out so that I can sit back down and just really enjoy it. But it's free, so you can get a little taste test of it while it's running and then decide what you want to do and if you want to keep it forever. So and is there anything else you want to add about the summit? Like, why women in keto? Why was that topic chosen, do you think?
Well, there's not a lot of research for women that's in keto. There's more research in men, unfortunately. And there's not really a lot of research overall in keto anyways. And for women, there's a lot more difficulty because our hormones play a major, we battle with our hormones, right, on a regular basis. And what we eat actually plays a big role on what our hormones. So I didn't produce it, but yeah, his focus was mainly on for women because it is harder for women to lose weight versus men. So this one is the summit is like an overview what's out there for the influencers out there in the Keto Summit, in the keto realm. And it's just to kind of help people who's just getting into keto and who to follow and who could give you the best information, because there's so much information out there, and some information is bad information, unfortunately. And so if you know who is out there who would resonate with you, because everyone's very different, and all the speakers, they have their own little focus also. like we said, Vanessa focuses more on protein, and Dr. Anna Kabeka, she focuses more on hormone and menopause. So everyone focuses on something a little bit different. So
Which makes it so
whoever
great.
it makes it
Yeah.
great. So whoever resonates with you, then you could kind of follow them and do a little bit more research with them.
Yeah, definitely.
You too, because you're low carb,
Yeah.
so they can follow you.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
it's great, and yeah. So the summit, so for the pass is $67, and not only do you get to see it, you'll get to get the original summit that was launched in 2019, and you get the transcript. So if you don't want to watch it, you could even read it and highlight the areas that you think is important. And then you also get extra stuff too, like you get an Abby Kuhn has 10 keto meals under 10 carbs, which that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And Cheryl McLaughlin, she has a weight loss over 40 mini guide. And Ben Azadi has Keto Camp Blueprint, so it kind of helps you start it. So there's also other, Heather Kuhn actually has a free autoimmune trigger worksheet. So the Access Pass not only gives you the videos, gives you transcripts, MP3 player. So if you want to walk and listen, you could do that too, and gives you some extra guides and downloadables to help you kind of get started in keto. And even if you're already in keto, it gives you what's out there, that what's new that people are doing. So it's a great, I think the package is great, and you should really check it out.
Yeah, definitely. I love the transcripts too. I'm definitely one of those highlighters. Definitely. Yeah, it
I'm
sounds
a
like
reader, so I like to watch, and
yeah.
sometimes when you read, it actually kind of puts it in again. So
Yeah.
I'm a reader also.
Sounds like a great package. So yeah, we'll definitely link that up into the show notes for everybody to check out. So we're going to still keep continuing about ketogenic diet and women, and like there's a lot of information out there, like we're saying, and I think the summit brings a great perspective for finding out more information for women, and like you said, on different topics and areas of expertise. We're just going to look at a little article here. It's a Healthline one. Healthline put out so many different articles all the time. I don't know, like sometimes they seem very opinionated, and then sometimes they seem very like broad overview. So when I was looking at this one, I was kind of like, oh, they're kind of like saying there's potential negativity for a ketogenic diet, but then again, they're focused on the heart health, which we've talked about this a lot of times on the podcast before. They're also talking about that the studies, though, that are looking into this are inconclusive. So I'll link the article up into the show notes for listeners to go back and have a little bit of a deep dive into that. But my question is there, we have a lot of negativity out there about doing the ketogenic diet. What about some of the positive aspects of doing the ketogenic diet for women? We've talked a little bit about hormones and weight loss. What about for you when you found energy? What about clients that you work with or things that you've seen? What are some of the positive things that you can talk to us about women doing ketogenic diet?
Well, in the beginning, it was a little on the difficult side, but as you get used to it, it became easier because my appetite started to shrink. And so I didn't have to eat as much. I did intermittent fasting, and it became just almost routine for me. And I think it's mainly because I wasn't hungry all the time. So when I did the other diets, I did a regular low carb diet, but I was hungry. And since I was hungry, I was frustrated that I wasn't reaching my goal. But when I did the ketogenic diet, I was more mentally calmer, and I just wasn't as hungry. So for me, it just became a little bit easier to sustain. And I just, like I said, in the very beginning, it was difficult, but after the first 3 weeks, it became really easy for me. But the transition is something that's, as you can tell, when you watch the summit, there's majority of everyone there are coaches. And when I started, I didn't even know there was such a thing. I had no idea. but I wished I did at that time had a coach to kind of help me maneuver through what I should be doing and how I should be thinking and what I should be focusing on. So it's very interesting how keto has evolved and how health has evolved too.
Mm.
Because women, like, we have to take more control, because you go to a doctor and they don't really know. They just tell you, they prescribe something to you and you just take it. But I don't want to take a prescription. So
Mm.
I'm taking more control of my health, and diet is the first line of defense for me, so
Yeah.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a couple of things I wanted to pick back up on there too. So one of the things was hiring a coach or working with a coach to really help you, because I wonder whether there's so much negativity around doing keto, because people try it and then they get maybe the keto flu, or they get like, they don't think it's working. They get that first initial loss of energy before the energy starts picking up, or they just don't even have any markers. Like you had the marker of the sore back, but you didn't realize. So it took you a couple of goes to realize that. But do you think working with a coach would definitely help you to pinpoint those areas so that you can come back and say, well, look at all these things that are working for you now?
Yeah, I think if I had a coach, because I went back and forth, because I couldn't believe that just changing my diet would change so drastically. Because I've been to a chiropractor and I went to my regular doctor, and none of them ever said you should change your diet. None of them said that. I took Advil on a regular basis. I mean, I was in Advil like 3 to 4 times a day. I was popping Advil for my lower back. And so when I changed my diet, I haven't taken Advil in over a year, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And but I guess, but yeah, I think if I had a coach, and I wouldn't have gone back and forth with the keto diet. I mean, I did hit my weight loss, but it took almost 9 months for it to actually stick
Yeah.
mentally, for me to kind of get into the groove, because I went in and out, and I was kind of getting frustrated, but then I was like, but it's working for me. And journaling really helped me. I tell you right now, journaling really helped me put everything in perspective. But I do believe a coach could have helped me maneuver it faster. I
Mm.
could have been more confident, and then I would have been able to understand exactly what was I not doing correctly and what I was doing correctly.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, but almost everyone I interviewed, they do either private coaching or they do group coaching. I'm also a coach now too.
Yeah.
And like I said, I never even knew in 2019 there was such a thing. In the world of health and fitness has evolved so much, and it's amazing. So I think coaching is a great way to help someone. You go to your doctor, to get advice, and that's what a coach does also, kind of gives you advice and
Yeah.
helps you maneuver to a better health. So,
Yeah, definitely. And even coaches need coaches too.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah. um,
absolutely.
and we'll link up your website if people want to work with you, if you're taking any clients on. So if they're interested in learning a bit more, so we'll put that into the show notes too, so everyone can contact you if they want to. So
Thank you.
yeah, and I think I think it's great coaching, definitely, and journaling, like you said, tracking. A lot of people can get a little bit, there's too much going on with some of that. So I would always just say, just pick one that you think that you'll stick with, and work with that. And we can't expect to do everything perfectly the first time round either. But you knew, like, there was something in you that knew that this was the right path. You had already started feeling good and experiencing the changes in your body. So even though you started and stopped a few times, you knew this was the right path for you. And I think a lot of people don't tap into that, or don't listen to the body's signs and signals, and just go, oh, well, I can't do it, I'm going to give up, and that's when then maybe a coach or someone would be good to work with. So I think it's really great that you stuck with it. And even though you did, like, you didn't beat yourself up, did you? You didn't.
Sometimes I felt like I did.
Yeah.
I'll tell
But
you one thing. When during my keto in the beginning phase, I had difficulty sleeping. And I didn't know what was going on with me. I really had no idea. And I was journaling and I was laying in bed and I was praying, going, am I going to go to sleep now? I had like insomnia. And that was one of the, and I thought I was going to have to stop keto. Um, but I just kept on doing it and it went away. And it went away because I wasn't so rigid with myself. I
Mm.
remember laying in bed going, okay, well, maybe I should um, focus on meditation. And I started doing my meditations. I did affirmations. I did a whole bunch of little things. But I was like, well, why don't I just not be so strict on my diet? And that's when I actually started to sleep better. It was,
Mm.
and it took almost 45 days. It was a
Wow.
long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a very long time. And it surprised me. And I think I was just too strict because I was so happy that my back stopped hurting. And that's because I have one leg longer than the other. It's just
Mm.
very small, but it hurt me for ever since I was a child, actually.
Yeah.
Because I actually tripped, and that's when that's when we noticed one leg was longer than the other because I had an
Mm.
X-ray at that time, and I was like, oh, I got one leg longer. But everybody goes, oh, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. But the older you got, it got really became
Yeah.
worse for me, and I was actually overweight too. So when I lost the weight and the inflammation went away, and that was another thing. I didn't know I
Mm.
had inflammation in my body.
Yeah.
Um, so when the inflammation went away, then it got better. But my biggest problem was that I also didn't know I wasn't eating enough vegetables. I mean, I was counting my macros and everything because I was tracking everything, but I was not eating enough vegetables. And that was another thing when I was journaling, I realized that there was a pattern in my eating and I wasn't eating enough. So I had
Mm.
to reevaluate that. But yeah, I do believe a coach could have solved that problem sooner for me. Like it took
After
me almost
45
3 months.
days.
I'm telling you, it's a long time.
Yeah.
And I was like, they could have probably seen it because I didn't see it until after.
Mm.
So I am a big advocate, not only because I'm a coach, but I'm a big advocate that um, for me, I think I would have probably stopped if my keto journey, if I couldn't get my sleep
Yeah.
in control, because
Yeah.
that became a major issue for me.
Mm.
But so yeah, I do believe coaching could have helped me
Yeah.
with that. So yeah, I did my trial and error with this journey,
Well, that's all
and I still
experience
have it.
too. Yeah. It's good that
It
you
is.
learned from that, and the journaling definitely helped as well. So if people are thinking, oh, I'm not sure about a coach yet, like start journaling. That's something that
Mhm.
you can do straight away. And that's a good one. And that's you were just talking about veggies, so I just want to pick back up on that one. That's a common mistake that people can make when they first go keto. And I've got another little article that are like 5 common mistakes, and I'll put that into the show notes for people. But let's talk about the veggies. So why do you think people do you think people just automatically think it's a carbohydrate, I can't touch it because it's a vegetable? Do you think that's what kind of happens?
I think for me, maybe, I think so, but I also only have, like, a couple of vegetables I like asparagus, broccoli, and cauliflower, so I just stuck to those vegetables,
Mm,
and I wasn't eating enough well-rounded vegetables, you know?
yeah.
So, I only ate broccoli maybe one day, the next day I ate cauliflower, so I wasn't eating enough vegetables because I just kept eating, like, one, and I just kept cycling between
Yeah.
my 4 favorite ones, and then I started branching out to eating, spinach, so I started eating spinaches now and, arugula, so
Mm,
there's things that I branch out now that I before all I did was just eat. But, yeah, I think you just kinda get narrow-minded just picking the vegetables you prefer and only focusing on that, and that's what my biggest problem was, that's all I did. And I also had the keto flu too, so I wasn't taking enough salt, I wasn't taking enough electrolytes, so I ended up with, the keto flu, 3-day, like a very low grade headache. And that's another
mm,
issue too. One of the pitfalls for doing keto is getting the keto flu. And I knew about it, but I thought I was drinking enough. I mean, consuming enough electrolytes, but obviously my body was not because I had a headache. And that's when I
yeah.
started up my electrolytes. And to this day, I still drink electrolytes.
Yeah.
That is so mandatory. I didn't realize it when the beginning, because I was just drinking it like on a K, like one day I would drink it and one day I wouldn't. So
Yeah.
now I drink it every single
Consistently.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too, actually. And I enjoy that in the afternoon. It kind of just gives me a nice little pep to keep me going to deal with the children once you pick them up from school. It's kind of like my little afternoon ritual just before I pick them up. But also, if you are eating more veggies, you will be getting the micronutrients in the veggies. And then hopefully you won't need as many electrolytes either, because that's really what's, so like if you're eating the spinach, which has potassium in it, so then you're getting some of your electrolytes that can be depleted on the ketogenic diet there. So that's a good one. And just before we move off veggies, because I'm a big advocate for veggies. I do like veggies. I find a lot of my clients are always a bit afraid of beet, or we call it beetroot in Australia, but it's beets, So, and it can be higher in the carbohydrates than other veggies, but beets are very good at helping to thin bile and also to help you to kind of digest the fats that you're eating. So if you're first starting out, I love just to tell people to grate just a little bit of beetroot on top of their salad. They don't have to eat a whole beetroot. I'm not talking about sitting down and eating a plate of beetroots or beets, as you call them. But just, grating just a little bit over just to help that bile flow can be really helpful as well. And that's a inexpensive vegetable that can really be helpful in helping you in a ketogenic diet and not something to be afraid of. And I think all veggies are like that. You don't need to be afraid of them. You could have just small amounts of some of those veggies, and that would be great for people to add into their diet as well. So yeah. So what about some other pitfalls? What about fat? Let's talk about fat, because I just mentioned that one. I find a lot of women are, because we've come from either our mothers in the low fat era or us growing up in the low fat era. So we're afraid of adding fat in. Have you found that with yourself or any of your clients?
Yes. Matter of fact, almost all my clients, it's really hard for them to increase the fat. They have to really be mindful to put like a little to cook with it, or just to add it a little bit more to their plate. So yeah. And even for me, it was a little bit difficult because I never really cooked with fats. Never really thought about it, actually. So yeah, it was a little bit difficult. But yeah, it is something that you really have to think about in the beginning, and then it just kind of becomes a little bit easier as you go.
So do you, is there any tips? Like if I came to you and I'm doing some coaching with you and I was like, oh no, I can't add any fat into my diet. And you can see that the client's not getting hardly any fat in their diet. What's some easy kind of tips you'd get them to start doing to add some more of the healthy fats in?
Well, there's steaks that have healthy fat in it. So I'll ask them, do they prefer to eat steak? And then they could kind of, so I would prefer them to eat steak if they don't want to add it, because steak will have the fats in them. So meats have it. So that's one thing. But I don't really care for fat bombs.
No.
But dark chocolate has those are great. There's antioxidants in dark chocolate. I prefer anything above 85% cacao. So that's a good way to get fats in you. Also in nuts. So not really. Nuts are great to put on salads. So I love nuts on my salads.
And my favorite is guacamole. I love guacamole.
Yeah, well, guacamole is another great one, and that's actually I love to smash it.
Yeah.
So and I actually use that for my salad dressing. So I just smash it and then put olive oil in, because I don't usually buy salad dressing. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
So olive oil and salt and half an avocado, and I smash that.
Yeah. Perfect. You're making me hungry right now. Well, we've certainly covered a lot today. And if people want to know more about doing ketogenic diet for women, then the summit is coming up. So don't forget that. We'll put that into the show notes. Rosanna, it's been great talking with you. Is there anything you'd like to say before we leave, or do you want to let people know where they can best find you?
Oh, sure. So I do have a website, and it's speedyketoliving.com. And all my information's there. My Instagram's the same thing, speedyketoliving.com. And on Facebook, it's just speedyketoliving.com also. So it's all the same all the way across.
That's good. Makes it easy to find you. That's great. And we'll be seeing a lot more of you on the summit. So
yes. Yes.
Which is great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. That's the end of today's episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our theme music is created by Andrew Bowden, and production services are by Kevin Kennedy Spain of Disc of Light Media. Have a great week, everyone.